So we're here to talk through this Kurotto puzzle by Prasanna. It has a moderate difficulty, but highlights a few standard types of deductions that are useful in Kurotto puzzles. The diagonal pairing theme actually brings to light one of them quite immediately, which is that you look in the neighborhood of a clue and you recognize that around these 4 cells, a total of 3 shaded blocks will exist. When that's near another clue, which is much larger than it, now around these 3 cells, there are at least 4 shaded blocks. This difference in the groups that these 2 clues see implies that at least one more cell is shaded outside of this group, so that sees the 4 and not the 3 versus the ones that do see the 3. And there are a set of those kinds of observations around the edges in these places. And the largest delta is actually down in this corner. And so we're going to start down here. And when we mark this cell in, we're going to actually mark that it's 3 or larger. And by seeing it's 3 or larger, we can start to quickly now see that a 3 can't come close to this 2 clues. So as soon as it takes this cell, which is required, it's going to mark off those. And it can't take this clue because of, or this cell, because if it did, it would now connect to the 4. There's a hard wall where this group is not touching at all the 4 itself. So to use that this is exactly a size 3, that means this is exactly a size 4 over here. We can mark 2 of the cells quickly. Seeing that we can't come all the way to this cell or that cell, we can actually mark one more cell here. A 4 group can't touch a 3, so we actually isolate it down and it fills in here. This 2 is now isolated with just one place for the shaded cells to come out from, and so we can quickly mark those in, and that gives us a shaded group on the other side of the adjacent clue, the 6, which is 4 large. 4 large can't touch a 3, but it can come up and take these cells as a starting point. We don't know the last cell. It could be here or here or here or here. But note that with this 2 next to a 5, in one of the 2 cells that are off of it, there's going to be a shaded group. That shaded cell is going to actually join to this and be part of the 4. And so there's a 4 to the lower left of this clue. There is one cell, one of these, it's up there, and that means that communicating through to this 2, one of the cells is seen, and the last cell has to be up here for this to add together. So 1 plus 1 is 2, and 1 plus 4 is 5. How that goes. That actually now isolates this 4, and so all the cells around the 3 are going to have to come out from this group. We'll figure out what that means in a bit. Let's come back down over to here. So this group of 5 has 4 cells to its right, and that 4 group would also, if this cell were shaded, we'll actually see that once one of these cells is shaded, these can't be shaded. This still needs to see one more, and it's got to be right over here. And we'll mark that in as size 1, and that means that this 3, the next adjacent clue, has to see 2 more. That's going to be a cell that starts here and uses one of these. Whichever it uses, it cancels this cell for being an option. That now makes this group of size 2, forces this to be of size 1. And again, it's just notating around the grid as we go. We're now at a point that with these adjacent clues, we've got a big clue near a small clue. And so this thing up here has to be at least 3 or larger. And we'll actually see there are only 2 cells left for the 2 to take, this one below and this one above, which has to be separated from this other group. So these add together. So this is going to be size 4. And seeing it's size 4, it's got to dodge the clue of size 3. It's going to come over here. It can't come all the way to take both of these cells, so it's got to take at least one more up above, but we'll see that now limits it going further. Takes this cell. This 2 now has to take just this. We get to here. There are going to be 6 cells shaded out from this 10. At least these 2 must be used. And with this marked this way, there are at least 2 cells that are further seen that are only seen by this 8. Again, 4 plus 6 in the middle. This is not a place you can uniquely get a sum of those cells, but this is. So this will be a group of exactly size 2. Marks off that region. We've got to come back here and finish out groups like this 3, groups like this 4 and 7. The 3 has 2 cells to the left or below, so it's got to take at least one more. As we've seen before, there are going to be hard walls when we do this. This 3 can't take one more cell because it would become too large, and so again, just tracking in the things we know. Got a 1, a 2, a 1, makes this unused. This is now a 7 that's got a 1 and 6 total cells to the bottom and right. And this 10, this group here was going to be 5 or 6 with this cell being shaded, but what we now see is we're going to have a 7 that's touching somewhere here that takes as many as 6 cells, and a group that's also touching the 6 that takes as many as 6 cells, and that has to be the exact same group, and the shortest path that connects them together actually uses 6 cells, and so a 6-cell group cleanly finishes this part of the puzzle. The 2 comes over to finish here. This remaining part of the 4 finishes there. We've got to grab as many as 3 cells near this 3 clue up top. Can't take this one, so this is the only way that goes. And this is the last way that this goes. And so we got through this puzzle. They're just, say, standard-ish Kurotto steps to work with, but if you've not solved this puzzle a lot, it helps to see how adjacent clues interact and give situations like a large group that has to be away from the shared cells between this 4 and 7. Large groups avoid small groups, and so we saw how that worked in this corner. And then as groups start to extend and grow, you are at places like when we've filled in 3 of these shaded cells, one of them would have to join to this 5 clue by necessity, but that leaves behind a count for the remaining groups that there's exactly 1 shaded cell here, and then you can propagate through and do some arithmetic to see if there's 1 left over. And that works in different places out on the other sides of the grid, as we got, for instance, to a 10 that had a 5 or 6 group and a 7 that had a 5 or 6 size group here that converge where it has to be exactly 6 and touch to the 6. So I hope that helps a little bit with thinking about Kurotto puzzles in general and thinking through some of the more challenging puzzles at the end of this week that added in variations on top of just the Kurotto. We'll see you again soon.